Hello, everyone. How are you? I am Patricia Hibule. Welcome to today's webinar. It's a lot later than I normally would have, or early. It's a beautiful day in Toronto. It's been a while since we've all been able to go back on the court. And now that it has, I would say, increasingly difficult to abide by the rules that are being enforced. But I urge you to keep up with that. Who knows how long this is going to take. So be aware of the social distancing on the court. It's difficult, but it has to be done. On today's guest, she has 3 citizenships. She was born in Montreal and American father and a French mother, and chose to play for France. And I'm thinking, like, Canada, well, she could have played for Canada, but she didn't. But anyhow, so she's reached 6 Grand Slam finals in singles, won 2 of them, actually won 4 Grand Slams, 2 in singles, 1 in women's doubles, and 1 in mixed doubles. And her Australian Open singles title came in 1995. French Open singles title came in 2000. Not only did she win in the singles, she won the doubles as well at the French Open with Martina Hingis. She is the last French player, male or female, to win the French Open title. She was inducted in the International Hall of Fame and won 2 Fed Cup titles. I can't remember an entire list of what she's done. But she also got to play, or was selected to play, in 3 Olympics. While this list of amazing record that Mary has in her tennis journey, not taking anything away from that, but I thought, I knew Mary when she was in her teens, when she was 14, actually. And for me, it's from what I am coaching with the mental side of resiliency, with the elite mindset, I thought it was befitting to invite Mary on with us, because her tennis journey was one of treacherous grounds. You know, her father was her coach, and anytime you have a parent as your coach, there is tremendous pressure on you, more than people can realize. It's something that you only understand when you go through it. So, Mary, her father was her coach, and having to deal with the pressure of being so good at such a young age. And I know we're all here excited to find out how she did it. The most striking for me about Mary is her as a person. She not only was she a great competitor, but just a sincere person, where she is using her achievements, her fame, her stardom to reach out to youngsters, to just trying to make a difference and giving back to the tennis community on a very large scale. So please join me to welcome Mary, and I will open up the Q&A, and and just feel free to write any questions. The chat will be open as well. Give me a day or 2, and this will be on recording on YouTube. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that will encourage me to continue bringing a fantastic guest with us. So let's invite Mary with us. Oh, hi. How are you? Oh my gosh, look at you. Did you just come from workout?
Actually, I'm going to go work out after this.
You are so good with that. So I was just, just sharing with the audience. And the audience, Mary, is a combination of coaches, players, and parents, and maybe tennis parents, a coach. So a good audience of well-rounded group. And I was sharing how, of course, your achievement. I mean, it's fantastic. I lost track of what you've done.
You
But
did a
what
great job, by the way. Thank you for that incredible introduction.
you're welcome. But what really, strike me or just so inspiring for me is that how you are using what you've done to make a difference. And I can say not many players do that.
Oh, thank you.
No.
Thank you, Patricia.
So, but no, but thank you though.
Yeah, that really means a lot to me, because that is the desire of my heart, is really to give back. And tennis has taught me so much and given me so much in life. And I am the person that I am today, because of a lot of things that I've been through in my life on the court and off the court, and how it's molded me and shaped me as well as a person. And the desire of my heart today is to really do something that I'm passionate about and excited about. Whereas before it was playing professional tennis, but now, at 45 years old, it's not doing that anymore. But doing something, like I said, that I'm passionate about, excited about, and that has a global impact and that will touch people's hearts and change people's lives. So that's the desire of my heart.
It's just fantastic that you will actually do that, because with any time that we want change and make a difference in the world requires people like you. It's just the public figure to really stands for what's the rights and the wrongs. So how did you deal with the pressure, that your father was your coach? It's hard because my dad was my coach, until I was 15, from 8 to 15. All right. And we all have different journey. And I know, a lot of the parents or players, or, the audience just like, oh yeah, it's so great that you have your dad, as your coach. But what they don't understand is the extra pressure that you carry with you. So share a little bit of how you handle that pressure.
That's a really good question. I think I started playing tennis when I was 10 years old, and from the first day I was really able to play tennis as if I'd been playing, for years. I was able to play at the same level of
Wait a
other.
minute. You mean like in 45 minutes when you touch the and the coach like, how long have you been playing?
Yes, the first day that I played, I just, happened to jump on a court, and um, the court that I ended up on at the end, I was with kids that have been playing, that were, a few years older than me, and they were hitting serves and they were playing points, and I had no idea what to do. I was just making sure I was last in line and watching everybody, observing, trying to like imitate and do what they're doing, and I was able to do, pretty much like what they were able to do, and which was incredible. And so pretty quickly I started competing, and started doing really well in the juniors. And then 13, my dad took me out of school, said that's enough junior tennis for you, you're going to play pros now. So the age requirement at that time, the minimum age was 14, so we had to wait a year. And so I started pro at 14. And I think, gosh, dealing with the pressure, it's just, pressure was there from very early on to perform. You had to play well, had to win, didn't really have a choice. So I just had to do it, and playing tournaments early, I didn't want to compete at first. I felt bad, having, to beat somebody, because then I thought, oh, they're gonna feel bad, and I don't
No.
feel bad. So I was not a real competitor in the beginning,
No.
So I had to become a competitor, and I didn't really have the choice either, because my dad put so much pressure on me, to play well and to win all the time. So it wasn't easy, and I just kind of had to do it. I just feel like I didn't have the choice growing up and being so young. And I think that, I say often, if I wasn't mentally strong and emotionally strong, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. And I wouldn't have been able to handle the way that he trained me. I would have crumbled for sure. And so because I had some kind of internal strength, that I didn't know that I had, I was able to handle it. But also because of the way that I was trained, it made me tough, and it made me strong. So, it was just something like I didn't have the choice. It was just something that I had to do.
I remembered the first time I met you, we were in Florida, and I was one of those odd times I traveled alone. And then there was this huge commotion with like, yeah, there's this girl, she's 14, and she's playing here, and she's going to turn pro. And I was like, who, 14? I mean, like 14 years old. I'm like, why is this girl not at school? Why don't,
Yeah.
that's when I saw you, right? And then
Yeah.
your brother, David, was there.
Yeah.
And he was playing that tournament as well. And I'm watching and I'm like, darn, I was like, she hit a really good ball. Oh,
Yeah.
you know. And I remembered you were very focused. You were so focused. I wouldn't, all I saw was like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it to the T.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. Like I said, like you said, at 13, you're like, why isn't she in school? So my dad took me out of school, and I was doing everything through correspondence courses at the time. So, put it in the mailbox and wait for your test to come back. Not like today, everything's online. But I was training pretty much all day long. It was about 8 hours a day, and lots of hours on the court, and lots of balls and repetition and baskets and hitting and lots of 2-on-1 drills. And um, I that was something I think that was also in me, was just to be very focused whenever I was do something when I would do something, and I wanted to do it the best that I possibly could, no matter what it is that I did. I always wanted to try to do it the best that I possibly could.
Which is, to me, it's really amazing, Mary, because a lot of times kids, you hear these coaches, put your kids in a lot of sports, put your kids for varieties of just to build athleticism. I get the sense that that didn't happen to you.
No, not at all. I wasn't doing any sports before I started tennis at 10, because I really liked school. And like I said, I wanted to be a pediatrician. So sports wasn't something that really interested me. And especially living in Florida at the time and growing up in Florida, it's like super hot, super humid. And I was like, oh no, I don't want to go outside. You sweat too much. And, so I wasn't exposed to really other, except for, what you do in school, in school, PE, stuff like that. And then, back in the day when I was young and I was a child, we did not have screens and all these electronic things, and we didn't have internet. So when you're a kid, you play outside. So I was outside all the time playing with my friends, running around, playing hopscotch, jump rope, hide and seek, different games that you can play. I mean, there was like these wooden paddles with these small little blue plastic balls. I think it was like Pro Kadima that we used to play on the beach, something like that, So we're always playing different kinds of games and things like that. I was always very active outside with my friends, but didn't do another sport growing up per se.
Yeah, and it's your dad was not in tennis. He didn't know anything about tennis.
Correct. Yeah, it was
He
he
was self-taught.
wasn't a
Like you
tennis
told
player.
yourself.
Yeah, it's really incredible. Like when I think back to, what my dad did, it's amazing. No tennis history or education. Um, Obviously when I played tennis the first day, the coach at the club saw me and told me to come back the next day with my parents, when I told him I'd only been playing my first day. So I guess he must have told my parents, your daughter is talented or gifted or something like that. And um, my father was there from the very first lesson. So he watched all my lessons. He listened to what the coach would say to me. He started to watch from then on, like every match on TV, and he recorded them. He studied them. He had me watch them with him. He would get the tennis magazine every month. He would go and buy books from, all the best coaches in the world. I remember him taking Harry Hopman's book and like highlighting and underlining and studying and technique and drills and, reading about the best tennis players. And he became a student and learned so much. And he would take me on the court, and then he'd start to teach me, like, technique that he learned in the book, and drills that he learned in the book. And, I mean, he couldn't hit with me at all. He could hand toss the ball from the same side of the court as me. And, it's funny, like, that is where it all started. I'm telling you, my dad would stand on the service line on the same side of the court as me, and he would hand toss balls. And when I made it up into the pros, and I still continued to do that with my dad, and then my brother, who traveled with me in 2000 and 2005, I remember getting on court, like, on site at tournaments, and my brother and I, we would do these hand toss drills. And I'm sure, like, people were looking at us like, what are they doing? That's like for babies, like for beginners, but now everybody does it.
Isn't that funny though? It's like, yeah, not even a new thing, like their peers, right?
And then my dad taught himself to serve. So he was left-handed, and he could serve from the service line of the other side of the net, but he couldn't serve from the baseline. He just wasn't able to hit a good enough serve and get it in. So he served always from the service line, and we did tons of return serves every day that I practiced. We did at least 1 or 2 baskets per side. So it was at least like half an hour of return to serve every day. I did like a basket of serves at the end of the day and return to serves. And my dad served to me, every day. And so he worked hard too. When you think about all the time that he put in, the energy that he put in, and he was a hard worker as well. He was on the court sweating as well. And it's just incredible to think what he actually did and where he brought me to, because he coached me until I was 18. And I don't remember exactly what was my highest ranking when I was 18, but it was, I think, probably top 20, something like that. So it's incredible.
My thing on my blog, it's just sharing insights and coaching and talk about the elite mindset. For me, it's always inside out. It's not just the tennis thing. And with you, when I watched you, and now with reflection, yeah, sure, you were powerful. I mean, you were strong. Girl, great timing, hit a great heavy ball, right? But at the end of the day, it was you that came through, because your dad, he was there, was your coach, was your everything for a long time. And I'm sure your parents, your family, like all the parents are trying to give the kids opportunities, sacrifice a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And as a child, when you see your parents sacrifice and they work so hard to provide, something in you is almost like it transformed, it just got transferred into you, and you understood that. And I just wondered, like, I wondered if that's where your mental, like, you're tough emotionally, mentally, because you saw how hard your dad worked and you just learned it. You learned what he did.
Well, I think, there are certain things that we're born with, that we get that we inherit, from our family, from our parents or grandparents, down the line, I guess, and I can see, my dad, definitely, I got that physical, hardworking from him. And also my mom, she's an amazing woman, very intelligent, has a PhD in linguistics. So that doesn't come easily either. And, very focused. So, I got a lot of those great qualities, grateful from both of my parents.
Yes, I would say so. I remember your parents well. Yeah, so there's a lot of talk, like you said. What I was always trying to encourage the players that I work with is, Billie Jean King once told me pressure is a privilege, because I was
Yes.
probably whining, moaning because I was having a bad day. I don't know. And then she just came to me and she's like, pressure is a privilege. And I listened to one of your interviews when you got inducted in the International Hall of Fame. What is it that what gets you going most or motivated you? And you said playing on center court.
Yes, definitely. I mean, for me, that's what I love the most, the biggest, the bigger the match, the bigger the stadium, the bigger the crowd. I mean, the more important the point, the more important the match, like, just when it's all on the line, Like I just loved that. Like for me, I just like thrived on it. You just put me in, the more important the situation is, the more that I love it, you know, because I know that it's all on the line. It's kind of like, you know, when you play and you're playing and it's like, okay, sudden death. It's like this point, the winner takes all, you know, and I'm like, yes, I love that. If you ask me win by 2 or sudden death, I'm like sudden death.
Sunday.
And everyone hates that. They're like, no, 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 win by 2. And I'm like, come on, you know, that's too safe, you know? But no, totally. Because why? Well, because I know that the other person is nervous and the other person is tight. And, you know, so, you know, I am too, but it's how you deal with it and how you handle it. And so I think because I know the other person's really nervous and tight, I feel like I have an edge. And yeah, I just loved it. It just brought out the best in me, I think, those moments.
That's just truly amazing. You were not taught. It wasn't like, okay, Mary, love the pressure. I mean, you just came from you, right?
Yeah, I think, like I said early on, I just had to deal with it. Like I feel
Yeah.
like I didn't have a choice. And then I learned to compete, and then, you know, I guess also when you're good at something and when you have success at something, obviously I think you're going to enjoy it more than, you know, if you didn't per se. So yeah, who doesn't like to do good, you know, be good at something and win, you know?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think, and that, because I had a natural gift, obviously, that God gave me to be able to play tennis. Um, I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed it so much.
Okay, so some players compete better when they are playing at home in the country,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and some fold, and some play, Where do you think, did you think you compete? I mean, I know you're outstanding everywhere, of course, globally, right? But where do you feel that you perform your best?
Um, you know, there's two places. I really enjoyed playing a lot in Australia. The Australian Open was one of my favorite tournaments just because I just loved that country and just loved being there in the city, and it's just like, you know, like my kind of place, you know. It's January, it's summertime, nice weather. The people are really friendly. It's a very athletic country. They're healthy, good food, and the tournament was just fun, great crowds, and the tournament did a great job to make sure that you felt happy and comfortable and had fun and was enjoying it. So that was a place that I always really enjoyed going to and felt
Mm.
really good and enjoyed playing there. But then obviously, you know, playing for France my whole career, and going to the French Open, going to Roland Garros, competing there and being on the center court, the Philippe Chatrier, packed crowd. There was nothing like that. Like it was just completely different than any other atmosphere, or any other crowd that I've ever played in front of before, because, you know, they're all excited and here I am and getting out on the center court, and, you know, it's just amazing. And the whole crowd is just so happy that you're out there and they're cheering for you. And it was really special for me. It was like when I went out on court, I really felt like I wasn't alone and I wasn't just me on the court playing my match and like they're just watching me in the stands, but I was like, okay, here I am, and we're gonna do this together, you know. And it was just like me and the crowd and my fans, and just, you know, we were like one, you know, and we were like in this together, and it was just a really special feeling. And it was a great, like it's an extra force, like extra strength that it gives you, when you're playing your matches.
But that is super that you can actually embrace that energy, right?
Yeah,
It's because that's extra energy that you need when you go get into a really big fight.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it also brings extra nerves and extra stress and extra butterflies, you know, when your stomach before you get out on the court, because it's super exciting and it's more intense than any other crowds and atmosphere. So, you know, you want to do really well and you want to perform great and you want to win and all that kind of stuff. But obviously you don't have any control over that. You just have control of your effort level and, you know, giving the best of yourself and enjoying every moment out there on the court. And I, you know, as I played year after year and matured and had more experience, and I would appreciate more and more those moments and really just kind of embrace and soak it up and live it. And it just meant more and more like each year for me, and it was just really special. Those were the moments for me, I think, that like I'll never forget. And it produces a certain feeling physically, like in your body when you're on the court playing and the whole crowd just roars and cheers. It's like you actually feel something inside of you. It's like in your chest, in your body. It just all shakes, like vibrates. It's just like you can't explain. It's incredible.
You have to experience it. It's an individual
Yeah,
experience.
I mean, imagine 10,000 people roaring all at the same time. It's like, it creates movement.
Yeah. So that, obviously that is your brightest moment, right? You super extra motivated when you get to play at home in France. What would be your lowest, least favorite moment challenge in your life?
Um, you mean like a match that I played on the court, or?
Yeah, a match or an injury or something that just really gets to you. You're like,
Yeah, I had I remember I had a there's two things that come to my mind. I had a shoulder injury um right before the US Open. I'm trying to think what year it was. Maybe 90, 98, 99. I'm not too sure. Um, and just before the tournament, the doctor told me not to play.
yikes.
He's like, if you play, you're gonna risk injuring yourself more, and then you have to have
Uh,
surgery. And I was like, I'm playing.
uh,
Give me the anti-inflammatories, whatever you've got, because I was like, I was feeling great. I was playing great. It's just my shoulder was hurting. And he was like, okay, I just want you to know that, like, it's not a good idea, but it's your body. Okay. So it gives me all this strong anti-inflammatories. I have my treatment. I do what I'm supposed to do. I get to the tournament, and like by the quarterfinals, like literally, I had a match on center court. I was playing, I think it was Anka Huber, or I'm not too sure. Um, but I got out on court, and I mean my shoulder was hurting so bad in the warm up before that match, and I couldn't even barely start. Hit like three, and it was just so painful. I ran into the training room. I didn't have much time before the match, and I was like almost in tears. I was like, I can't serve, I can't serve. You've got to do something. And they're like, Mary, we're doing everything we possibly can. Your shoulders just can't take anymore, And I was like, but I have to play. I have to play. Anyways, I get out on the court, center court, U.S. Open, try to play my match. Win the toss, chose to receive, of course, play that game. And then it's my turn to serve. Oh my gosh, double fault. I couldn't hit the ball on the court. Double fault, love 30. And then like the next serve, it just went all the way to the baseline. I had literally no control over my shoulder, my arm, like
oh my,
nothing. And I was like in tears. I was like, I can't even serve.
oh my gosh.
So I
Now,
had to retire. Obviously, it was impossible to play. So I had to retire from the match. And then I had to take 3 months off and, have shoulder rehab. Thankfully, I didn't hurt it that bad, but I had to have surgery, which I was
yeah,
really lucky. That didn't
yeah.
happen. But yeah, I took a break, and it was tough, when you really want to play and you can't. That was really, really, really hard. And I remember the second thing that I thought of was when I had my knee injury in 2006 that ended my career. I had surgery, and my surgeon said when I woke up from surgery, he's like, oh, it went great. You'll be back on the court in 4 to 6 months. And he's a pioneer in knee surgery, and he's done a lot of top athletes in many sports. And after surgery, they've come back and they've conquered their field and won great titles. And so I was very confident, like after the surgery, yeah, I'm going to be back. I'm going to be back on top again. And 6 months later, I still couldn't do like a full leg extension, and I had pain and I couldn't walk normal. And it was just so weird. It was like a mystery. No one could understand what was going on and why I still had pain. And I remember so clearly I was on the treadmill trying to walk, and it was like my leg just was not responding to me and what I wanted it to do, and to my brain. And it was like I just couldn't walk normal, and it was painful. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's just not working. And I sat down on the training table and I started crying. And the physio comes to me and says, "What's wrong, Mary? Are you in pain? What's wrong?" I said, "No, I'm not having any pain per se that's making me cry. I just said, I don't know if I'm ever going to walk normal again."
Oh, wow.
I literally had no clue if I was ever going to walk normal again. So, forget about even playing tennis at a professional level, just
Right.
about walking with your two
Yeah.
legs functioning normally. And that was a really, really, really tough moment for me. And so it just made me so much more grateful for everything and the simple little things in life. And eventually, with time, it got better and better. And obviously, today I can walk around normal. And, I can even play a little bit of tennis again. But, that for me was a moment that was really, really difficult.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. I mean, at least you can play. I can't even walk.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I chickened out into knee replacement already.
Wow.
And yeah, so but that's something as elite athletes we have to endure, right? That's just part of our job. Serious injuries. I mean, I don't think there's one elite athlete that is, that doesn't have one.
Yeah.
It's
All
how
for
you deal
free.
with it. Yeah, it's how you deal with it. I mean, my kids laugh. I'll sit in a certain position. I get up from the couch and I'll go, money, 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 because it's absolutely killing me. So definitely. And then you really don't know. I mean, you love the thing that you do, but when you lose it, that's when it really hits home. That will you will never be able to do. Like I look at the court and I'm like, I think I can run, but my brain is doing this, but it's not connecting, right? So definitely relate to that. A
Mm.
question for you from Udaya.
Hi, Udaya.
Hi. How do you think tennis evolved from when you played to now? Do you think it's for the better?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I think what's changed, there's a few things that have changed. Obviously, the obvious ones, the rackets, the strings, the technology, for players to be able to hit a lot harder nowadays. It's also gotten a lot better in the sense of science and research. So training, even the physical fitness side of the sport, and the recovery side now is incredible as well, of what you can do for recovery that we didn't have back then. So you see players playing a lot longer in their career and a lot older now. So much has changed, and we have so much more knowledge, as even nutrition and everything else, to just be such a better athlete and last even longer. And when I first came out on tour, it was '89, and there was Navratilova and Kota Kilsch and Novotna, and there was a lot of one-handed backhands. There was a lot of serve and volley, and as the game changed and become more and more powerful and harder hitting, uh, the game changed to more of a baseline style, not so much of an all court game, and serve and volley kind of just disappeared. So now it's more, big serves, big ground strokes, possibly come in, take a swinging volley, maybe finish the point at the net. But I really miss the serve and volley, even just to change it up every once in a while. And that's something that I incorporated into my game later in my career, because I was afraid to come in the net in the beginning, because I just didn't do it, and then as I learned to hit my volleys better and played a lot of doubles and mixed doubles, so I became more confident at the net, and just did a lot in practice and practice matches coming to the net, because I hit the ball so hard, is like take advantage of the powerful shots. And then the more I did it, the more I got confident and used it more. And then I started to mix it up every once in a while. I was like, oh, let me just serve and volley now. And I had a good kick serve. So sometimes, even against a player with a one-handed backhand, I would hit a first serve or a second serve as a kick serve and then come in behind it. Because I had difficulty if the ball was up here and it would float, then I could just put it away, like, for a volley. So I miss today when I watch tennis, I miss, seeing serve and volley and players coming into the net more. And when I do see it, I'm like, oh, yay. That, it's nice to see. And I feel like it's coming back a little bit. It's coming back a little bit. But for me, I think those are the biggest changes that I see now in today's game.
And you're absolutely right. Like the game, during your era it was becoming so powerful, right? And now I feel like the tennis now is not so much one dimensional anymore, because the tactics is coming more of a play. The last 7 years, developing the hands, knowing how to defense, offense, and come to the net as an element of surprise. It's almost like if you want to be successful now, you cannot just be based on power, but also up here. You're gonna have to think
Yes,
through,
definitely.
you
Because
know,
players are more powerful now and run faster and hit harder and
yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Because how hard can you hit? Even with the best equipment, right? You still now it's the whole mental game, the tactical side of things need to come together. I see, and the surface. A few weeks ago, it was very interesting. I brought on Leila Fernandez. Is this young 17 Canadian
Yes, I've
who,
heard of her.
yeah, who played, Belinda Vintage at Fed Cup, and
Mm.
her dad is her coach. And one of the questions was, is it better to develop your player on clay? That was
Mm.
a very good question.
Yep.
And yeah, and his take on that was, you need to develop. Everybody have their own game style that they're successful with, right? So not that you cannot add to it, but you still have to. If you are an aggressive baseliner and you go to the clay court, you're not gonna become a Conchita Martinez just moonballing. You've got to keep your game,
Mhm.
do better at it. So maybe you like to win your shot in 3 hits, but then know that on clay it may
Yeah.
take longer. And I
Yeah.
thought it was very interesting.
I grew up mostly on clay. We practiced as much as possible on clay. My dad believed, that it was better for me to train on clay as much as possible. So, for various reasons, he said that one, like physically for your body, it's better than a hard court because it's less pounding on the joints. Also, physically, it's harder because you have to slide and it's more demanding on the legs. And because a lot more balls come back, it's more cardiovascular. So it works, the heart, and you have to be even fitter to last longer and long points. And yeah, no, definitely on clay, you've got to work harder, you've got to think more, and you've got to build your point and be patient and wait for the right time to finish it off. So I grew up most of the time practicing on clay, and I love it. I mean, it's my favorite surface. Favorite surface. I love sliding around on the clay.
Yes, you did look very comfortable at that Roland Garros court. Yes, I would say you grew up on that. How much fitness did you do?
So growing up from 10 to 18 with my dad as my coach most of the time, very early on, he had me doing fitness. So, my dad had me running the mile every day, going to the track, getting his timer out, and I had to run the mile within 6 minutes or less. Um, he had me doing like, such Rocky style.
Rocky style.
It
Did you
was
bring the
all,
chicken out? Did
yeah,
you bring
it's
the
all
chicken?
Rocky style training, like push-ups, sit-ups, little, free weights, and just, just him having me do all kinds of stuff. And then, we evolved to getting a tire and tying a rope around it, and then tying the rope around my waist, and
That
then
is Rocky style.
yeah, and then doing like the 50-yard, sprints, 10 times or whatever with pulling the tire. But I loved it actually. It was great.
Good for you.
So I probably did, and I jump roped every day, 5 minutes before each tennis session. And sometimes if it rained and there wasn't tennis, I'd do like 15 minutes of jump rope. So I did, I don't know, at least an hour or an hour and a half per day that I was training. I trained 5.5 days. So I would train Monday through Friday. I'd train on Saturday morning. And then I trained twice a day, Monday through Friday, and then Saturday morning. Then I'd have Saturday afternoon and Sunday off. So, at least I always had the rest on that day and a half on the weekend. That was important for my body to recover. Then from 18 on, when I started to work with, like, you know, a professional team and a professional tennis coach and professional strength and conditioning coach, um, yeah, I would say probably the same, like fitness wise. I worked really hard. I loved, you know, being in the gym, and I loved doing strength training. That was my favorite part. I didn't like the running. I didn't like the, you know, interval training and all the cardio stuff. I like the sprints, but I didn't like the long distance stuff. Um, but yeah, same. I would say, you know, half an hour, 45 minutes, my warm up beforehand, each session, and then about an hour and a half in the afternoon at the end of the day, you know, with strength training and endurance, and then, you know, recovery days, core, just injury prevention stuff. So yeah, it was really important.
How about stretching? You know, these days everybody's stretching so much, right? What was your routine?
So I always stretched after my tennis sessions, which is now known as static stretching. So that's what I did. And then as I started to work with a more professional team later in my career, I understood what dynamic stretching was. So I learned dynamic stretching. So I did dynamic stretching before my tennis sessions. And then I always did static stretching after, like when I finished at the end of the day. I think my body was used to it, and I felt better doing it. You know, there was a certain period where there was one, you know, strength and conditioning coach that says, you know, you shouldn't stretch right afterwards, you
Oh
know,
yeah, yeah, I
do
remember.
it like later, you know, an hour later, or don't do it only if you feel like you need to. And so I kind of played around with some different things. And for me personally, like not stretching right afterwards, like cool down. So when I finished a match or a training session, I would cool down on the bike about 20 minutes. Depends on if I had a really tough match, 20 or 30 minutes, just
Yeah.
really easy, just to get the lactic acid out. And then I stretched. You know, I would have my recovery shake, cool down on the bike, have my recovery shake, debrief about the match, and then I would stretch. Um, you know, have my shower, and then you could do like hot cold contrast in the shower, and then ice bath back then was literally like a bathtub with the cold water only, and just throw some ice in there. We didn't know the temperature of the water. Like, this is cold enough. Yeah, it's pretty cold. Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's so like professional, you know exactly like the temperature. There's the ice baths.
No, I tell you, those ice baths. Oh, oh, don't. Well, actually, I've just had a few recently because our hot water tank broke, and it took 5 days
Oh,
to
goodness.
fix. Oh, that definitely brought back memories
Yeah,
of
that's not
ice
fun.
bath. Oh
That's
yeah,
not
that
fun.
that was that was not pleasant to say the least. Okay, so I know you were coaching some, right? You were coaching some. Um, what were some of the traits of the players that really entice you and motivate you to just like go to that extra mile? Because we all have a certain things we look for in players that we're like, oh yeah, I'll do anything for that player.
Yeah,
And also talk about some of the things that you're like, okay, I don't want to work with that player. You know,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So talk to me about that.
So the things that, you know, really interests me in a player and why I want to help somebody, um, first of all, for me, it's just like, why are you playing tennis? You know, you can see it right away, like if someone's playing tennis because they want to play, or they don't know why. Sometimes they have to do it, or they like it. But you know, you just love to work with someone who's passionate about it, who's happy to be on the court, who's got a good attitude, who's intense, who's giving 100% effort. That, you know, when you speak to them, they stop, they look at you in the eyes, they listen when you speak, they, you know, respond, and you can see that then they go and apply what you've asked them to try. If it works, it doesn't work, it doesn't matter, you know, at least they're trying it, you know. And you know, having fun, you know, for me, like those are really important. Being on the court with someone who, you know, and what's wonderful is when that player's able to give feedback, you know, and communicate with you. And you know, even if they come on that day, like, you know what, today tired, or I had a bad day, or I'm hurting here or there or something, you know. And I love that, because then you know that there's a real relationship, and you feel that they can, they feel they can talk to you, and that's how you can best help them
Right.
and get them through those days, because we all have bad days, we all have good days, and so it's on those bad days or the days where we're not feeling good or we don't want to be there, where we need to communicate and talk about it, because then we can decide, hey, you know what, okay, let's talk about this. Well, today we had this plan for training, but maybe we'll change it up. Maybe we'll not go so hard today, or you know what, no, I think we're going to push through today, you can do this. And that's when your team, you need a team around you like that, or your coach there who knows you and also knows when they can push you, but also knows when they can say, hey, you know what, it's okay, just take the day off today. Or you know what, let's just go for a jog for half an hour, or let's just go sit down and talk. you know um, and I think for me, that's what's also really wonderful and special. I think coaches maybe don't realize what great role they have in someone's life. And I think back to my career and my greatest coaches, my favorite coaches, and how they really helped me to be the best that I could be. Yes, of course, as a tennis player, but in life, because we go through so much, and it's we talk, there are different ages and different things you go through, but it's just nice to know that you have a coach that cares about you. And I think my best coaches were the ones that I felt that really cared about me as a person, and they wanted the best for me as a person and as a player,
Right.
not just a tennis player, because you can't separate them. If you're going through something, it's really difficult. You go through difficult moments sometimes. So to be able to have that person that you can talk to and to have their support, is really, really important. So that's get to know your athlete, and the relationship is really, really important, and know how to get the best out of them, and they'll perform so much more for you, and they'll want to go, the extra mile. Um, and then obviously, it's pretty easy. I mean, players that, you don't want to be on the court with or don't want to help are the ones who don't try. I mean, it's pretty simple. Like, if you're not going to try, then why are you out here? And our time is precious. We don't have any time to waste. I do what I love. I'm passionate about it. I want to work hard and I want to have fun. So if you're not going to try, then there's no reason to be out here. It's very simple.
It is, yeah.
And then bad attitudes,
Oh,
there are sometimes players that can be disrespectful, or just have really poor language, sometimes on the court, or just behavior or the way that they are interacting with other players. So I try to figure out kind of like what's going on with these players, talk to them first, get to know them and figure out what's going on. Give them the benefit of the doubt and give them a chance, kind of thing. But, if there's a player out there that, really doesn't want to try and he has a bad attitude,
well, that's it, right? I mean, it doesn't matter how many hours you put towards tennis, but if your attitude doesn't support it, I mean, just take a little bit, and it usually starts with the language, because language comes from your thoughts, and that will just dismantle all the work, that they put in it. For me, it's funny that you spoke about passion and attitude, because that is a lot of my work revolves the 5 pillars of success that I speak of often. They are the ones that I picked up where I, with you or with any elite athletes, and and myself included, I've sort of gathered like throughout the years. I'm like, what, they sort of fall into these categories, like passion, attitude, accountability, resiliency, right? Those are really make up. It's not one more important than the others, but they all come together.
Right.
Because the one thing that I feel a lot of the juniors get it wrong. It may be because of the marketing from social media, that they supposed to have a wonderful day, a great day.
Yeah. The facade, the mask, it's fake.
Right. So, and then when they go out there to train, and then the seconds, and then of course 99% of the time things are going to go wrong. If the sun is at the right way your toss is, or the wind is coming, they don't know how to deal with it, right? So, and then when that happens, they crumble. They don't really know what to do.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I've noticed that with the generation now is that they don't handle adversity very well in general. I'm obviously generalizing, but as soon as something gets tough, it's like, oh, and I'm just like, what do you do? You think it's going to come easy? I mean, they're just so used to everything. It's like one click, boom, I have it in 1 second. Everything comes when I want, what I want, quick and easy. And I'm like, no. This is tennis. You're on a tennis court with a racket and a ball, and you've got to work and you've got to put the time in, and it's called repetition. Practice makes perfect. It doesn't come overnight. Patience, perseverance, hard work, sweat, but hard work always pays off in the end, so.
But why do you think that is? Why do you think of that, with this generation where they just so impatient?
The only thing I can think of is technology. The only thing I can think of is smartphones, internet. That's the only thing I can think of, because you want to know something, well, you don't even have to think or try hard. It's like, you just go on the internet and you find out in a second. You don't have to work hard for anything, and just everything
right.
quick and easy. I think they're just used to that now. My niece is 6 years old. She's born into this generation of screens. She knows how to, work the iPhone better than her grandma.
She set up your Instagram for you.
So that's just normal for them,
Right. And to those who are, and there are a few, there are a few players who really want to do well, and they're looking to, get into a high D1 collegiate, tennis scholarship, which is fantastic. To those who are willing to put in the sweat and the pain, what would be your suggestion to them to get into the elite mindset?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, Patricia. I always say, first of all, know what you want. Okay. So what are you doing and why are you doing it? And what do you want? And when those things are clear, then you can kind of map out a pathway to achieve those goals or those dreams, and be realistic in the sense of like, to basically, the question that I always say is, are you willing to do whatever it takes? If you say that this is what you want and you write this down, it's on paper, these are your goals, these are your dreams. Okay, now are you willing to do whatever it takes? And have that mind frame. Yes. Okay. And, one of the things that really motivated me when I was playing and when I was competing is just my drive was to be the best that I could possibly be, and to look back and say, I have no regrets, and I've done the best that I possibly could. I gave 100% of myself, and I can look up and have my head high and be proud that, I gave 100%. I did the best that I possibly could. I was honest and with integrity. There's no cheating. There's no cutting the lines, shortcuts. I mean, that gets you nowhere. You'll never make it, and you'll never be successful in life in anything you do with that kind of a mindset, And I think that for me, that's one thing that I look back and I can be proud of. And, of course, not perfect, and made mistakes and lost matches, but those things happen, and it's part of the process, and that's how you learn, and that's how you grow. You say, okay, what did I do wrong? Oh, okay. And then I learn from that and apply the next time. And having an attitude, what's really important is having an attitude of like being a student, and wanting to learn and wanting to be open. There's sometimes some players that think like they know it all,
Yeah.
I remember working with this 12-year-old boy, and I'm on the court, and he serves, and he's playing a point, and he did something like tactically, like totally off, like totally wrong. He lost the point. And I said to him, well, I think next time, or why did you hit that shot, and why did you hit it there? Blah, blah. And I said, okay. And I said, well, I explained to him, I think next time it'd be better if you hit it this way and did this shot or whatever. I don't know what he said. Look back at me, and he said something like that was kind of like ridiculous and that would never work. And I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. You're 12 And I'm like, I don't know how old I was, like 40, whatever. And you haven't won a Grand Slam tournament in your whole
Look
life.
at
I'm
that.
4. I've got so much more experience and over 500 wins. It was number 3 in the world. So yeah, you're right. You know, and I just walked off the court. I'm like, you know what? Okay.
Oh,
But you know, but to have an attitude of like wanting to learn, like every day that I came out there, I had my team around me and I trusted them, I believed in them, I knew that they were the best and that they wanted the best for me. And so they told me something, I believed them, I trusted them, and I wanted to do my best, and I wanted to learn something new every day and get better. Today I want to be better than yesterday, so I'm going to give my all. And one thing that's also really important is the little things make a big difference. And sometimes we'll think, oh, that's not too important, or it's just a small little detail. It doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. It will make a difference. Well, let me tell you, you're wrong. It will make a difference. All the little things always add up and make a big difference in the end. And that's where you have the champions, because they're diligent and they're consistent day in and day out in the little things that even are simple and basic, but that's where they beat you in the end because of that mind frame that they have to be diligent, to have their routine, you know, making sacrifices, making the tough choices. You know, you can't always do what you want or eat what you want or go to sleep when you want, you know, all these kind of things. So, you know, the little things add up and make a big difference.
yeah, basics. Do the basics really, really well because it is tedious
Yeah,
work and it's not
consistently.
funny and it's not
Yeah,
sexy, but hard, boring, tedious work.
yeah,
But in the end, that's what you need.
yes,
So well put, Mary, because like today we did this drill and I had to emphasize to my group that it's an exercise, may not be realistic. I understand that. I really had to put it out there, right? Because I had like 5 boys and 1 girl, right? So the drill was, the volleyer volley down the line and the passer go cross court. Is a coordinate, cooperation drill with each other for 1 minute,
yeah,
right? And
uh-huh,
because how many times have we seen players at the net and they reach, they stretched out wide and they try to do too much.
yep,
So this is really moving. There's nothing fancy about it, but a lot of precision, And then you were saying details matter because all of a sudden the player gets tired, and then next thing you know, instead of moving their feet over behind it, they just stick their racket out. Like, oh, I got it back. But it's not just getting the work done; it's the quality of
yeah,
how you get it done
yeah,
also matters.
yeah.
So we have time. Oh, I can't believe this is going so fast. We have time for one last question from Mihika. What do you think should go through a player's mind before when playing a match? What are your thoughts?
Okay. Thank you for your question. Good question. So before playing a match, I think, you know, you need to think about in what state are you mentally and emotionally when you're playing your best tennis. So think of, you know, the best match that you've ever played and how were you and in what state were you? You know, for me, I knew that it was being calm, that it was being confident, you know, being strong. And so for me, I did things that would help prepare me mentally and emotionally before going out on the court. I think one of the things is being prepared, first of all. You know, if you think about going to take a test and you haven't studied at all, how nervous you're going to be and how stressed out you're going to be. But if you've trained and if you've prepared, you're going to go out in your match and you're going to be feeling confident. Okay, I've done everything I can to be ready for this match. Um, I did a lot of breathing exercises to help me relax and visualization. Visualization is really powerful. And I did a lot of that and it helped me a lot. So, you know, I think tennis is simple and we need to keep it simple and not complicate ourselves and our lives when we're out there on the court. And so for me, before my match, when I would go out and play, you know, I knew my opponent, okay, and I knew their strengths and their weaknesses. And I would just put in my mind, like, okay, whatever it was, their strength and weakness, I knew that. and then my game, and then how I wanted to play. So that tactically, when I got out on the court, I knew what to do. So it was like already like in my mind, you know. And if I didn't know my opponent, if it's someone that I've never seen before, I've never played, then I'm just gonna be like, okay, in the warm up, I'm gonna discover their game, you know, to try to know, get as much information as I can. And, you know, at the end of the day, I'm gonna play my game. You know, so it's important that you know what your game is and impose my game on them. My game was powerful, being aggressive, hard hitting, coming forward, attacking their second serve, etc. So, you know, I think before you get out on the court in your match, it's important to have some quiet time, and just prepare yourself mentally, visualize, and know exactly what you want to do tactically, and keep it simple, you know, and that way you get out on the court, you know, mentally prepared in that state where you're relaxed, you're calm, and you're focused, and you're ready to fight.
Wow, fight is it's a very important word in competition. Because a lot of time you cannot depend on good days. You have to depend on your fighting skills. And
Yep.
that cannot be compromised at any time at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Mary, I want to, on behalf of everyone, thank you so much for giving us your time.
Oh, Patricia, it's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed every moment with you and with everyone that was watching. So thank you all for being here today.
So I will speak to you soon.
Yes.
Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you. You too. Take care. God bless you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, there we have it with Mary. I hope you have a lot of takeaway. I certainly did. I can't wait to have Mary back on again. Just an incredible human being. Right, on to our next guest. He has coached, he was on the ATP, ranked 64 in the world when he was competing, and then came away and became a coach. Specifically coach of Maria Sharapova for 7 years. Excuse me, I'm sure that he will bring insights into his elite mindset coaching. It will be right here with you on Wednesday, next Wednesday, a week from today at 8 p.m. More details to follow. This recording will be available on YouTube in a day or two. And please remember to subscribe on my YouTube channel. Have a good evening, everyone, and see you next week.